everyone, and welcome to this episode of my interview series. Today, I've got Carol Zhou. She's worked in beauty for many years, and she currently heads up innovation and investment for Shiseido in China. She started Shiseido's first beauty innovation hub in China and works on strategic partnerships and creates opportunities through M&A. Carol has a wealth of knowledge about the beauty market and the industry and is absolutely in the thick of things in China now today. And I'm very excited to have her with us here. Thank you so much for joining, Carol.
So thanks for having me, Ali.
So first of all, I guess I wanted to talk about a couple of trends. So coming out of obviously we know that China has bounced out of the pandemic, certainly in the beauty space very, very rapidly, starting last year. Health and wellness is something that has only gained traction and gained strength coming out of this. One thing I'm particularly interested in, and people that listen to this is natural and clean. How do you see this trend sort of developing currently in China?
So I think, with COVID, many people are much more aware of their health. So you see a lot of brands, both, beauty brands as well as other brands coming into the market with more of a health and wellness positioning. So before COVID, we had this trend of ingredient centric, right? Consumers are much more aware of ingredients in the label, and they're very much involved in like, what percentage is this versus that. So they're very much knowledgeable. I think after COVID, they're even more involved in the ingredients. And I think although not yet onto the so-called clean as in the West, but they're more aware of, certain ingredients, what are the causes of allergies, for example, from activities, from wearing masks, because everyone's required to wear masks in public areas. So that has given a lot of people skin irritations and breakouts. And in China, we have a huge boom in medical beauty, which is aesthetic beauty treatments. So with a lot of lasers, a lot of kind of heat treatments that also made the skin extra sensitive. So you see a lot of brands positioning themselves as for sensitive skin. And you see a lot of rise of those brands. So with all of that, although we don't have, the word clean, we do have a very large awareness of ingredients in packaging. What does everything mean? Would it cause irritation to sensitive skin? So that part is, I will only see it continue. And a lot of big brands, so even if their original positioning is not ingredient or percentages, they're starting to call out those things in their communications. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think I've said this plenty of times to my audience, how sophisticated the Chinese consumer is. And, certainly when it comes to skincare and how much research they do, and that they want to understand much more about the formulation and the ingredients than the general consumer in the West. And I think that shocks a lot of brands when they come in. And I think it's very interesting, your point about clean, and that certainly completely goes with what I've found through my research. Is it's it's there, it's being used. The term clean is being used more than it was even 12 months ago, but it's still not the reason people buy, and people are searching for it more, but they're searching to discover what it means, what brands are, how brands are linking to it. And again, it all goes back to the ingredients, doesn't it?
Correct. And it happens so fast. So I wouldn't be surprised if, 2 months later it becomes a buzzword. Everything happens so fast here.
I know, I need to get this interview out quickly, basically.
I mean, from late, I would say late last year to even this, we have been, this is a June, right? Even in 6 months, I've seen a huge boom of hyaluronic acid, ingredient because of the new regulation. So part of it is the government, right? The government approves the ingredient, and then the suppliers supplies the market with everything, and all the new startup takes them and put it into their brands. So that creates a whole ripple chain within the whole the market. So it's quite interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. So China speed. Okay, then the next thing, I guess, talking about future. No, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I mean, customized skincare is something that's been sort of people have talked about it for quite a long time, and I know that it's something that maybe in your space you've been particularly interested in. Can you tell me a little bit about what's happening in the customized skincare space at the moment in China?
Sure, sure. I've always been very interested in customization or
Mm,
personalization because I think that is kind of the future of where we're going with
mm,
very tailored for you products and services. However, because of technology, it's almost impossible for us to make, you know, for you only type of
yeah,
formulation
yeah.
because every single formula needs to be registered in China before you sell it, right? So it's also not technically legal for on the spot mix and sell it to consumers.
Right.
So you could do a DIY kit where consumers can do it at home, but there's no way that we can customize everything, for you and sell it to you. So that is the limitation. So you see brands taking other approaches where they can customize maybe like 10 to 20 different formulas, and the way that they sell it to the consumer is they analyze your skin and they say,
Mm,
oh, you're this certain skin type and we have this mixture for you. So it will look like, or it makes them feel like this is specially made
yeah.
for them, but it comes from a set of already set formulations.
Yeah.
And I don't see it happening. Like, I don't know how long it'll take for us to go to complete personalization.
Mm,
Don't think that's possible at this point with all the
yeah.
regulations. But you do see a lot more brands now having, diagnosis. So the way that they diagnose your skin, whether through an app or from a in-person beauty advisor or kind of like an online advisor. So diagnosing your skin and giving you a personalized consultation,
Hmm.
that is becoming more common. And
Mm,
then the recommendation for you, even though the products are not personalized for you, but the recommendation is personalized with the customized products for you, are what most brands are what they're trying to make personalization for the consumer.
focus.
So
Yeah.
a lot more brands are taking that approach, having a
Mm.
more with the way that they consult and the way that they give you a recommendation. The product itself, I don't see much more beyond customization at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, I mean, there are a few interesting brands in the US using technology to try and really look at the makeup of your skin and how, again, I don't think it can be completely 100% personalized, and possibly it doesn't need to be, right? I mean, that's a whole different topic. But the fact that consumers are wanting and demanding something that is more tailored to them and more suited to them and not so just driven by the market push and marketing and what the influencers say. I think that's an interesting trend for brands to really look at. And I think foreign brands coming into China specifically, how do you how do you talk about the product being good for Asian skin, for Chinese skin? Like how, or I know obviously different types of skin, but I think that's something that brands have to grapple with. Obviously, it's Shiseido, you're Japanese, so you have, in terms of the DNA. But for foreign brands coming in, do you think that's something that they really have to address with consumers, the type of skin?
I think consumers who are very knowledgeable in this sector, they're not necessarily, kind of figuring out is it Asian skin or Caucasian skin, but they
Mm,
want products that are suitable for them. So
yeah.
it's more about, as long as you can show that you understand the type of skin they have, as well as the issues that they're experiencing, and you
Mm,
have a product for that, they're not that particularly, like, oh, I need to buy a Japanese brand or I need to buy a Korean
mm,
brand. Versus, I think the younger, especially the younger consumers in China, are much more open and they're
mm,
much more willing to try different brands and services. And they want the expertise. I think that's very important.
mm,
When I look at the market right now, I see a lot more emphasis on science.
mhm,
So, dermatologists as well as plastic surgeons are
mm, yeah.
becoming KOLs on a lot of the social platforms, which is an interesting trend I see. So consumers are no longer looking for, I mean, they're still looking at, recommendations by normal, like, beauty KOLs, but they're looking for that extra expertise recommendation by the experts in the industry as well. So I think, science-based, if you state the facts and how it addresses the concerns that the consumers are having, I don't think it really matters that much.
Okay, that's great. So for you right now, what's the most exciting thing about beauty in China? It's what areas are you looking at from ideas or investment perspective?
I am primarily looking at two sections. So one is this whole concept of holistic beauty. I feel like this is not new, in the East, because we always believed in you have to have inner beauty that will glow from within, right? So people are taking a lot of internal, whether it's not really supplements, but supplements as well, but more beauty-oriented ingredients that are good for you, good for skin, and then pair that with outer skincare regimen. So it's kind of an inner outer combo. So much more, you see a lot of activity in this section now more than ever. Like every day there's something new that's like good for you skincare, and then they have supplements or food, beauty food for you to ingest. So really looking at that area, because as an Asian brand, especially Japanese brand, very much into inner beauty. So lots of new startups in this section. That's very interesting, and I think inner beauty has a higher barrier than I think outer beauty for consumers to try something that's tested. So consumers still are looking for quality, as well as kind of like the historical, like this brand has been proven in other markets. So this is where a lot of foreign brands have a great opportunity to enter China, because it's proven in Australia, it's proven in America. Consumers are much willing to try rather than a new brand that's unheard of, and then they're like, oh, where's it made? I'm supposed to take it. So I think beauty is very different from outer beauty. So that's one area. Another area is really, like I mentioned before, the whole medical beauty boom. Like aesthetic beauty treatments are becoming such a normal thing in China that I think it will only become a part of skincare. So when people talk about skincare, it's no longer just the lotions and the creams you put on your face, but it will include, for example, microneedling. Like that is a treatment that most women, I think, gets in China. They go once a month or once a quarter, and it basically, it's like injections. It penetrates into your skin with injecting, whether it's just HA or other nutrients, and that will give your skin extra boost. So as technology advances in this section, I think the skincare that comes along with it will kind of couple with that. Because this year we launched a new brand called Effectum, which is beauty. It's kind of a beauty device coupled with skincare. It's a joint venture we had with Yamen, which is the #1 beauty device company in Japan. So I see an integration between technology and skincare together, and that is a whole new territory, right? It allows much instant results. So you don't need to wait too long to see literally instantly lift your face, like Botox. But even so I think that section will only because if you look at penetration rates, Japan and Korea leads China by fivefold in terms of aesthetic medicine, aesthetic beauty. So I think China will have a huge area to grow, whether it's like the whole market is experiencing that. So it's a great opportunity. I also think for brands that have some sort of aesthetic or medical beauty background, because I know a lot of brands in Europe has that. Some brands in the US more from a dermatologist perspective. So SkinCeuticals, for example, is doing super well in China because of this trend. And I think there's opportunity for other brands to come in, especially from proven countries.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And I think something that you alluded to before is the products around it in terms of, what does that do to people's skin? Does it make the skin more sensitive? I mean, already sensitive skin is such a big issue, right? Like there's a lot of issues around sensitive skin, and obviously there's some local brands that are addressing that, but also from an international brand perspective, it's a big area. So that's something that brands could also pick up on, and maybe even in the more natural space. But I think we're still seeing that the market is very fixated on quick results and efficacy, and it being very immediate. I think that's
Yeah, very, very efficacy driven. They want something that works. But, as I think, also like you mentioned, there's another group of people who have tried so many efficacy driven brands or treatments that their skin becomes super sensitive. So they might have to get or try products that are post-care treat, right? So they get the treatments, but then they need products that will help them recover faster. So the post-care treatments are another area that are growing as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, there's lots of, as I always say to people, it's a huge market. There are so many different niches within it. It's just how to sort of really address that need for that niche, right? And I think a lot of brands coming in are often too general, or they're not specific enough. They don't find their target. They don't define their target well enough. So that's something that they really need to work on before entering.
Niche is big in China.
Yes, niche is big in China, and that's actually my next question, because you obviously work for Shiseido, and you've got a background from L'Oreal and sort of various other big beauty brands. But I'm sure niche is something that you and your team watch very closely. So, what do you feel is some advice for niche beauty brands coming into China now? Obviously they don't have the same budgets, but they have the advantage of being small and nimble potentially. So what advice would you have for them?
I think it's a great opportunity for niche brands to come into China at this point, because just for everyone who's not familiar with China market is a very unique ecosystem digitally, right? Versus the US. There's so many different platforms that you can reach consumers at. It's not dominated by a few. Although, Tmall and JD to some extent, or for the majority of the time, has been dominating the e-commerce space.
Yeah.
However, even now you see that a lot of the social platforms are taking shares away. Tmall traffic has decreased significantly over the past couple months. So we do see a lot of diversification in terms of channels. So as long as you define your consumer in the right way, you can really accurately target them, and you can really talk to them in a very singular manner. So that's like great for small brands, right? You don't need to spend too much money to get to your TA. And then you can really make your brand very unique in that, like, in their eyes. So it's very important to define your target. You can't be everything for everyone. And Chinese consumers love a unique story. It's very important that, they can remember your brands, because right now in China, everyone has so many options, right? You have a lot of local brands that are very fun and cool. You have a lot of foreign brands coming in. And then you have multinationals like us that everyone knows already, but have their large budgets to keep telling the story. But I think, with such a diverse market, with such, a competitive market, you really need to kind of focus on, what is the right target, and what are the right social channels to target them. Not maybe for smaller brands, I think many times they're like, oh, we should create a shop on Tmall, but I might not approach that way, because I think Tmall right now, like, traffic is very expensive, and for a small brand to come in, you might not even get the people to see your store if you have it on Tmall. So there's many other smaller, I think, new channels that you can explore, that you can ride on kind of the beginning stage, and kind of capture the consumers at that point. So like try creative ways to enter the market through different channels. And maybe there's ways to partner, because I think it's easier if you can partner with another, I think, either another brand or the KOLs in China that are looking for new brands that they can also sell. Because a lot of KOLs right now are having their own shops,
Yeah.
so they're also a direct channel into your consumer, and which is another unique area that I think will be growing for the next couple, I don't know, next couple months. Definitely, I'm also looking at it because we have some projects that we want to launch into the market, and they're also small and they might not have the budget. And I'm also looking at, who fits the profile of my consumer target, and can they actually help sell the product. So I think all of those is very important. And then lastly, just, very, you just have to embrace change, because everything changed so fast. And it's okay to just change your strategy or your tactics and try different things. And it takes a while, because consumers in China will try everything at least once. But it's about how do you make them come back to your brand. Because I do see a lot of companies with right now everyone's doing live streaming, right? Live streaming is the hottest thing, but live streaming, I always say, don't really sell a brand, it sells a product.
Yeah.
So you could get the top KOL to sell your products through live streaming, but how do you get them to come back to repurchase? That is the tough part, because live streaming can only get you that initial spike. But how do you engage them so that they can constantly come back? And that's how you grow a brand. So you think about like it's a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's loads of good advice in there. Really, really good advice. I totally agree about Tmall Global not necessarily being the right platform. And I think for the last little while, it's been the platform that all these brands have gone on to. And then I get a lot of people calling me and they're struggling, right? So they're looking for alternative options. But I guess then they haven't been as well publicized, these other options, right? So it's education as well on that. And also it's changed really recently. There's a couple of new players in the space in the last few months, right, in terms of cross-border. So yeah, as you said, things change every couple of months, but defining your audience, yeah, completely agree, it's super important. And yeah, great. Well, thank you so much, Carol. I think there's loads of information in there for everyone, and I'll put a link to your LinkedIn profile below if people want to get in touch directly. But really just thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.